when there's no more room in hell.
The dead will start a podcast.
Show you his knife. What did he hit me for?
Look back for the rules.
What was that?
Things happen to me, Giallo. I don't know that I can handle it. I want you to know that it's not because I'm afraid or anything. There's just stuff going down. I don't think I can deal with it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of No More Room in Hell. It's number 64. This is Mike. Joining me as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, pseudo-slasher fans. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Actually feeling pretty good. I'm not sick for the first time in 2025, so it's a good day.
Nice. Also with us, it's Derek. As always, what's up, Derek?
He's fucking Dyson. He's in one of these movies, man. It's fucking Dyson. Good for you at Skynet.
Oh yes, Dyson. Miles Dyson is in one of these movies. Man, I will say I'm so glad we're doing this on Saturday this time because playoffs tomorrow, NFC Championship, and like I would either be too down and mad or like so excited that my mind would be drifting tomorrow. So getting this out of the way before football.
Or too
Good
drunk.
decision. Too drunk, yeah. That too.
Plus I got work at fucking 7 in the morning tomorrow too, so that's like fucking crazy too.
That helps. Yeah. So it's been a bit since our last main show. Not as nearly as much as a gap between the previous one and that one, but
Yeah, there was still a little bit gap because of some postponements.
I think we only postponed once, right? For this
Just
one?
one last week, but then we were supposed to record yesterday, and I was like down and out, and fucking I had to be up at fucking 3 in the morning, so I'm like, fuck this, I gotta postpone this, or I'm gonna fucking be fucking either calling out of work again, or. But anyways, that's about it.
Yeah. So before we get into like our normal stuff, I will say it's recently, unfortunately, the passing of David Lynch sucks. Most of his movies, like, I wouldn't even say they're like horror necessarily.
Oh, Lost Highway is a fucking horror movie.
Lost Highway, yeah. I mean, that would probably be like the one that everyone
Robert
would
Blake
point
gave
to.
you nightmares for fucking years.
Yeah. But you know, we're all fans of like cinema in general too, and Lynch I was a big fan of, but I'm probably planning to watch Blue Velvet tonight because it's been so long since I've seen it, and I know that's like a kind of a psychosexual weird ass thriller.
Yeah, you passed Blue Ribbon ready?
Yeah. But yeah, and then a lot of people know him from Twin Peaks, so yeah,
Yep,
R.I.P.
that's me.
Yep, R.I.P. to Lynch, a master in cinema.
Yeah, first thing I ever seen was Lost Highway, and I was like, I think I was way too young to understand the concept of that fucking movie, and I'm like, man, that like Richard Pryor's in this fucking movies out of nowhere, and then Robert Loggia.
For me, it was Eraserhead. I saw Eraserhead in college. That was the first David Lynch movie I saw. And I think I became such a huge fan of his because I watched the movie with about 6 to 8 other people that I was going to college with, and I was the only person who liked the movie, which kind of tracks because I like weird shit. So, yeah, I fell in love with Eraserhead instantly, and then the fact that, you know, David Lynch, you know, in accordance with David Frost created, or with Mark Frost, created my favorite TV show of all time, Twin Peaks. It is easily my favorite show of all time. Nothing is even close. My number 2 would probably be like something like either The Simpsons or Mystery Science Theater, and both of those are a couple of miles behind Twin Peaks. I absolutely adore Twin Peaks, every minute of it, all 3 seasons, all the movies, all the extras, all of it. So yeah, it definitely hurt me when I saw that Lynch was gone. I went ahead and watched the 2-hour pilot of Twin Peaks, pretty much the same hour that I heard that he had passed away. And then, I've watched a few things since then. Eraserhead obviously is one that I absolutely love.
Elephant
Mostly
Man.
his early stuff. His later stuff is obviously still great, but it's like it's his 70s and 80s stuff that really does it for me. Stuff like Dune and Eraserhead and Blue Velvet. So yeah.
Is Twin Peaks the original couple seasons? Are they streaming anywhere?
They're on,
they are
Plus.
on Paramount Plus.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I own every.
Yeah, I figured you.
Yeah, I own
owned
the DVD
thing,
set
I own.
with all like 3 seasons. So
I own the first 2 seasons in 4 different formats. So yeah, that tells you a little bit of how much of a fan I am. I mean, I can't put into words how much I fucking adore Twin Peaks. And the fact that it's Mrs. Venom's favorite show too, not because of me, mind you, before we even got together, she was a Twin Peaks fan. So yeah, it was cosmic. It was absolutely cosmic that we got together. So yeah, rest in power, David Lynch. It's a great loss, even though he wasn't working as much as he, previously was in previous decades. It's a great loss, And the fact that I now know I will never get a season 4 of Twin Peaks just really breaks my heart. But, I'll deal.
Yeah. Fucking. Actually, I think actually the first thing I ever seen that I didn't even know was David Lynch was probably The Elephant Man, because that was always on back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
That was such a great movie. John Hurt, fucking Anthony Hopkins. Fucking awesome.
Gut punch of an ending. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was like our Lynch eulogy. I know by the time people are listening to this episode, it's going to probably feel like old news, but I was like, we can't not mention it.
Hell yeah. Man, remember that short he did where he interviewed a monkey? That was amazing.
How about the Rabbits short? The Rabbits is awesome.
Yeah.
The Rabbits is great.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I guess we'll try to bring things back up now with talking about things we've watched since the last recording. Yeah, maybe, hopefully, at least some of our picks, I guess. But we'll start off with Venom. Like usual, Venom, what is your first movie?
All right, the first movie I'm going to talk about on the first episode of No More Room in Hell in 2025 is going to be the first movie that dropped in 2025. This one hit theaters on January 3rd, 2025. It's considered a drama horror according to IMDb, and this one is called The Damned. This is the story of a 19th century widow who is running a fishing colony, and basically she has to make a very terrible decision because of how bad the winter has been for her and her people already. When there is a ship that crashes and goes down right off the shore of where they are, she has to make a very terrible decision, and the decision that she makes ends up haunting her for the rest of the movie. Now, I did enjoy The Damned. I'm going to say that overall, from beginning to end, I had a pretty good time with it. I will say that once we get the reveal at the end, it kind of took a little bit away from the movie. I'm not going to obviously talk about the ending because the movie's still in theaters as we speak. I was just at the theater earlier today, to see a movie that I'll be talking about here in a little bit. And I saw that The Damned was still playing. So, I mean, it still does get a recommend. For longtime listeners of our weekly show, Fresh Cuts, you might remember that last year we reviewed a movie called Out of Darkness that was basically, Homo erectus versus Neanderthals. If you go back and listen to that review is going to be almost identical to what I would have said about The Damned if we did a Fresh Cuts episode on that one. I loved it all the way up until the end, but then the end left me a little sour. So, yeah, all in all, good movie, a pretty decent quote-unquote creature once we actually see it. But then, like I said, that ending might still work for a lot of people. I'm not saying that it was a bad ending. I'm saying I don't like endings like that. And of course, I can't really get into why I don't like endings like that, because it might give a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit of a spoiler. So let's just say it's a solid period piece with some really good performances, some decent gore, and then an ending that might leave a little to be desired for some people. But all in all, a great start for 2025 with The Damned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was either gonna go see it or not see it based on what you said, only because that weekend I think I had a pretty tight schedule, and I think originally we were discussing it possibly doing it on Fresh Cuts, and then once we decided against it, I was like, okay, I don't have like the same situation of like needing to find a way to get to the theater, but I'm sure it'll hit streaming services this year at some point.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
But,
it's a neon picture, so I would imagine it'll show up on Shudder at some point.
Yeah, it'll be on Shudder or somewhere. I don't even know where they fucking stream those half the time.
Shudder gets a lot of the neon stuff. So, I mean, not everything, but they get a lot of it. So I would, if I had to guess, I would say Shudder.
Yeah. Or in Hulu. Hulu gets a lot of that shit too sometimes.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hulu,
yeah.
I watched this movie called The fucking Inheritance on there. I think you guys actually reviewed this one on Fresh Cuts. Yeah, it's kind of like that family going to a house. They all get called by their fucking father, who's in the, like somebody's going to kill me, and if you save me, you get part of my inheritance. That type of fucking plot line, which is a cool concept, but they add like a supernatural angle to it, which I thought was a cool concept. The only problem with this movie, a lot of the fucking main characters of it, I fucking hated throughout it because they fucking annoyed the fuck out of me throughout it. Bob Gutton was probably the best fucking part of the movie, and because it's Bob Gutton, we expect him to be a fucking asshole in the movie, which is the best part of it. But overall, like, there's not enough of like me to care about like when characters go in this movie. Like, I'm like, yeah, I didn't give a fuck about that person. Fuck you, person. Fuck you, person. And fucking the one girl that was a fucking vlogger and shit. I'm like, fuck this movie. But anyways, it was okay for like a one-time watch. It had some cool concepts to it, but overall, it wasn't like necessary view. And I didn't actually hear you guys review of it because I'm like, I think I heard in like chat that it was like not that big a surprise for you guys. I'm like, okay, maybe I should not fucking rent that one. I'll wait till it comes on streaming somewhere and maybe check it down the line. But yeah, you guys would probably write it if you did not like it. I don't remember because it's been a while since that episode you did post about it. But yeah, The Inheritance, not great.
I actually remember liking it, at least up until the ending. If I remember correctly, I think I had an issue with the ending, but as far as like and yes, the characters in the movie are annoying, but that's how they're written. They're written to be annoying, so I tend to give it a little bit more of a pass. But a couple of them weren't hard to look at either, so I mean that helps.
Yeah, that helps too. Yeah, the vlogger was kind of like the hottest girl in the movie.
Oh no, granted.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do remember. I've watched so many movies since The Inheritance. I don't even remember the ending, but I remember not being ultra positive on the ending.
Yeah, I kind of called
overall,
it when it was like happening. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, I saw that coming.
Yeah, I mean, that might be why I don't remember it. If it was that predictable, I mean, and granted, it's only probably been like what 5-6 months since it was released, maybe less even, but with the amount of movies that we watch, it's not a surprise that I'll forget, one of the more middle of the road movies. So yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, if there's nothing like on, I said like maybe for like a one-time watch, but like it wasn't like necessary viewing either. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh no, definitely not. But, if you got nothing better to do, it's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I didn't like hate myself watching it. Like there was some cool concepts and kills and shit, and that was kind of cool with the supernatural angle of it. But overall, it was like, I don't care. I fucking care enough about these people. You know what I mean?
Yep. I know exactly what you mean. All right, my first one is kind of a random watch that I picked from Shudder. This was like right in the aftermath. I think we had just recorded our top 10 of 2024, so I was like, oh, I get to turn the page on like seeking out 2024 horror and can just kind of randomly look around. And it was kind of late at night, so I was like, let me avoid anything too heavy. But this one was on Shudder, and it's actually from 2021, and it's called The Righteous. And as you can guess by the name, there is some well, there's a lot of religious subtext in this movie, but basically it's about this older couple living out kind of in the farmland, and they're mourning the death of their child, their child, and so you kind of get an introduction to like them living their life kind of like in isolation out there, and then suddenly an injured guy, maybe early 20s, he's injured. He shows up kind of on their land, and they're also the main guy, played by what's his name, Henry Czerny, which you might have recognized him from like Clear and Present Danger, and he was probably
Mission
in Patriot
Impossible
games too. Yeah, Mission Impossible. He's basically playing like, I think he's like either
Isn't he like the dad in Ready or Not too, I believe, if I remember off the top?
he might be he might be, yeah. He's kind of playing like a pastor who's kind of struggling with his faith, because that tends to be a thing in movies when like you lose like a child or something, and he's kind of struggling with his faith. I think you would consider him a former like Catholic priest in this. They take the guy in to like help him like get healed and before he can be on his way. And of course, any movie about a mysterious stranger, things are going to turn out a certain way. Like they're going to learn more about who the stranger is, why he's here, how it's affecting everything going on. I actually
Is he played by Tom Waits?
no.
That'd be
Tom
amazing.
Waits it'd be hard for Tom Waits to pull off early 20s, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I ended up actually liking this movie quite a lot. I liked kind of where it went. I liked what we were discovering about the person, and it kind of gets pretty cool by the third act as far as like our confrontations and character decisions, and people are kind of making decisions you might not thought they would have made at the beginning of the movie. But and this is a movie I didn't even really know this existed. I just found it browsing on Shudder, and that is one of the good things about Shudder, is like there's always movies from these years. Like even though we have a podcast about new horror, there's still stuff we miss because it just didn't show up, or maybe it didn't get good distribution to where I even knew, but it'll randomly get thrown on there.
Yeah.
Have either of you guys seen this, The Righteous?
I heard of this movie. It was actually it's one of those modern movies that Arrow Video put out. They released this on Blu-ray.
Oh.
So they're the ones who had like the distribution rights for it for like the US, I believe. Which is interesting because Arrow, like whenever they release modern stuff, that kind of keeps my interest, because they release like Sleep, which is another like modern movie that I haven't seen yet. And I haven't seen.
Are you talking about
one.
that Asian one, Sleep?
I think it's like German.
Oh, okay, because if it's the one I'm thinking of, I want to see that too. I was trying to watch it last year, but I couldn't get a hold of it.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I heard of this movie. I haven't seen it yet though. But if it's on Shudder, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, definitely. I recommend it. Venom, have you seen it or heard of it?
I have not. I heard of it, but no, haven't watched it. 2021 is like 2 decades ago to me, so the likelihood that I'm going to sit down and watch something from a few years ago that doesn't get a heap of praise is probably going to be slim to none.
Oh, Mike,
unless I have to for a podcast, obviously.
Oh, Mike, you heard that? This is going to be your future pick.
Hey, if you make me watch it, I'll watch it. But like I said, it's hard for me to spend. I mean, because especially in January when there's not as many new horror releases, and it takes a little bit more digging to actually find new 2025 stuff, which I have found. There's at least a dozen 2025 horror movies out already. But yeah, it's just really hard for me to watch something older if it's not for a podcast, or if somebody didn't tell me, oh, you have to watch this.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just one of those things. My time, despite being unemployed, my time is still precious to me. So sadly.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it probably like, if we're talking about like categories, it probably falls short of like, oh my God, you have to watch it. But the small cast, the single
like
location, I think you'd like it
Righteous.
for real.
It's like,
Yeah, maybe.
Watch the Righteous, or I want it all for the Nookie. It's going to always be I want it all for the Nookie.
Oh God.
All right, well, I'm kicking it back to Venom to see if that's his next pick.
Oh God, stop it. All right, I'm gonna keep the 2025 train going with the maybe not the second movie to release in 2025, but one of like the first 5 or so. Now, if you look this movie up on IMDb, it actually has a release date of December 24th, 2024. But I found out recently that was actually just a short theatrical run that this movie had. It hit VOD on January 6th of 2025. So it is still solidly a 2025 film if you're interested in adding to your 2025 numbers. This movie is called Bloody Axe Wound. This one has a great concept. Whether it pulls the concept off to its fullest potential is going to be up to the individual viewer. But the fact that this movie is basically about a family of serial killers that runs a video store, and the killers, when they actually stalk and kill someone, they are filming all the footage. They then take that footage, edit it together, and rent it out in the video store under the guise of it being a fictional horror movie. So it's like all of these movies that are like the most popular at this video store are only available at this video store, yet no one in the local community seems to put 2 and 2 together. But I just thought that was such a great little concept, something that I haven't seen before. Yes, we've seen families of killers before. We've seen killers filming their kills before. But the mere fact that this family owns and runs a video store, and yes, this movie this is a period piece, so it takes place in like the 80s or 90s when video stores still existed. It's not like they're trying to keep a video store afloat in 2025 by any stretch. But this is another movie that I was having a really good time with. I was on board for it. There's some great bloody kills in this one. Some intentional, some not so intentional. The not intentional ones are actually pretty fucking funny. But I will say that the movie kind of fizzles out in the third act, and kind of the whole fun factor of it is, how can I put it? The movie has already spent all of its fun points in the first 2 acts of the film. By the time that we get to the third act, it's not fun as much anymore, and you're just kind of watching this family go through. And then, of course, there's an issue with one member of the family maybe not feeling like they are truly a part of this family and that they should continue doing these things. I mean, like I said, it turns into a character study, a coming of age story, a period piece, an 80s period piece. I mean, it checks off a lot of boxes. So I would say if you get the chance, check out Bloody Axe Wound. It's an hour and 23 minutes. It is a very short watch. It gets right to the point. Right at the opening scene, we get right to the point. And we actually get a great opening scene with fucking Negan. Jeffrey Dean Morgan actually does play a fairly major role in this movie. He's not in it a lot, but he does play a fairly major role in it. So it's kind of interesting to see the way that they utilized him. And then the way that they utilized, the dad in that movie, Butch Slater. No, not Butch Slater. Mark Slater. So yeah, it just really fun movie with once again an ending that might leave a little to be desired. But don't go into this movie thinking that it's gonna, break the mold or be some new classic slasher. I doubt that's the case. I just think that this was a fun, original concept that if you don't have anything better to watch, check it out. It's only sitting on a 5 out of 10 on IMDb, which I think is criminally underrated, but we all know how IMDb scoring is, so I'll give it a pass for that. But overall, yeah, I had a pretty good time with Bloody Axe Wound. Have you guys had a chance to check this out yet?
Not yet. I haven't, but I want to. I know Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I seem like I should say I watched like the first like 5 minutes of this movie, or I just never got a chance to finish it, unfortunately.
I did see it, and I had fun with it too. It's funny because I think when I first saw it show up, I asked Nudie about it, and then Dawn chimed in almost immediately talking about how like awesome it was. So I was immediately skeptical. Not that okay, and let me clarify. It's not that me and Dawn never agree on like our enjoyment of movies, but like I know sometimes because of the types of movies he likes, when he says it's like fantastic, I might still like it, but like I doubt I'm gonna like it as much as he did. So I was like, okay, that's the Dawn endorsement. Should I move it down like my priority list? But because it's the beginning of 2025 and there just isn't a ton like out there for me to watch over it, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead because it's a new movie. And yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Venom said. I did have fun with it. I really liked the concept. I thought they had like a really good thing going with the story and then how they were presenting things. It just kind of ran out of steam like by the third act. Like it had the potential to be like really, really good. Like I think at like the 45-minute mark, I was like, holy shit, is like Dawn, was he like accurate on this one? Is it really going to be that damn good?
Yeah. It has elements of Behind the Mask, the Leslie Vernon story.
Uh-huh.
I like that a lot. But yeah, like Mike said, it just kind of runs out of steam. Whereas Behind the Mask doesn't run out of steam. It somehow gets better in the third act. This one just kind of, it just kind of lost its way. That's all. Yeah. Plus, I found myself, what's funny is that because we're following a family of serial killers, I actually found myself cheering for the family that didn't have any questions of morality. Like, I started getting mad at the one member of the family who was like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You've been a part of this family for years, and now you're going to say you don't want to be a part of this? What's that? So I found myself fucking cheering for the killers. By the way, Billy Burke plays our main serial killer here, Roger Bladecut, and I think he does a great job. Like, he's equal parts funny, menacing, creepy. Like I thought his performance was really, really well done. And you know, I'm not the biggest Billy Burke fan either, but great job in this one. So I just wanted to point that out too.
Yeah. Speaking of movies that fucking sizzle out, I watched Sting on Hulu as well, and man, like I love the effects of the spider and stuff. But man, they didn't have to fucking give that movie a fucking happy ending with the fucking family all living at the end. I'm like, fuck this movie.
Mm-hmm. Theatrical spider movies are almost always going to try to give you a happy ending.
I'm like, yeah, like the cool thing is like I liked it how like it began like midway through like the movie, and then it goes back 4 days later. And and I know a point where that fucking happens later on in the movie too. Like, oh, okay, that was kind of cool. But overall, like, I love the effects of Sting himself. But overall, the fucking movie was like, yeah, like that fucking whole ending, like I was calling everything like Terminator, the fucking spider at the end. You know, like, yeah, I was like, I know where this is going. And like they even Godzilla 98 with the sting of the eggs. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
Another common thing in spider movies, that sting of spider eggs at the end. I mean, how many spider movies have we seen it in the past?
Yeah, so not that it was a bad watch. It was like, this the ending kind of sizzled it out for me. I'm like,
yeah. Okay, I have two opinions on this movie because I feel like it's two different movies. I feel like there's the one movie which is all the spider action, all the quirky neighbors, the funny exterminator, all the spider stuff, all the kills, all the stalking, all of that I love. Where the movie falters for me is the family drama. I don't give a rat fuck about this family in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't come off as organic to me. It doesn't come off as realistic. It seems like it's a manufactured drama just to put, these family members, kind of at odds with each other. And it just didn't work for me. Every single time we abandoned the spider action and went back to the family drama, I lost total interest in the movie. Complete and utter interest. I just did not care. As opposed to a movie like Infested, the French spider movie from last year, that family drama I actually liked. They were younger kids. They were dealing with the death of their mother. They were dealing with their financial situation and how they're going to handle it. The kid, the main guy that is selling sneakers, trying to make money, like that all felt organic and realistic to me. Even their arguments when they were at each other's throat, it's events that I've been a part of in my life. So it comes off as realistic. But Sting, like I said, the family drama in Sting felt so manufactured, so just unnecessary. Like, literally, you could have made the exact same movie and just make the family actually a family unit where they actually care about each other. And there's no bullshit drama. And then it would have been just more a story of this great family coming together to deal with this spider, which it kind of does that anyway, but we have to deal with all the family drama bullshit before that. And like I said, it just brings the movie down for me. That's why Sting didn't even come close to my top 10, despite some great spider kills in the movie. I love the fact that the spider's an alien. It just all of it works for me, except the drama. But the drama was so bad that it brought down the movie big time. So.
Yeah, like you and the dad, like you think the dad's dead. I'm like, oh, that's exciting. But then he just gets back up. I'm like,
Yeah, and Derek is right. This movie should not have had a happy ending. At least one member of that family should have fucking died.
Like even the baby lived, and the baby.
Yeah, and that's actually that's what I was about to say, and it should have been the fucking baby. There's no way that baby should have survived getting
that long in the movie.
Because spiders do still sting their prey. They don't kill it, but they basically numb it. They're injecting a toxin inside of it that makes them more complacent, so that they can suck all the juices out of it later. There's no fucking way a human baby would have survived that sting of toxin from a spider that fucking big. So
even that long too that it was in it.
Yeah, exactly. So just a good attempt. Like I praised it for all of its CG effects and the spider stuff and everything else, but I just hated that drama so much it brought down the movie, and I may never watch it again, sadly, despite it having some of the best spider kills of 2024. I still may never watch it again because I don't want to deal with that family drama.
Same,
that or I'll just skip it. Maybe I'll just skip all the family stuff and make it a 1-hour movie.
It'd be like fucking 10 minutes at that rate.
Maybe.
The Sting cut.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. My next one is going to be this. So if everyone is familiar, there's that series on Shudder called Horror's Greatest, and the second season just came out. And during the episode, or the themed episode that was Hidden Gems, they brought up this movie that I had never seen, and I actually asked you guys about it in one of our chats, and it's called The War of the Gargantuas, and you guys have done so many episodes of Creature Comforts now that's I don't always remember like what's been covered or not, so I was like maybe they have, but maybe not. So you guys stated that you hadn't, so
yeah, we kind of, just to give you a little bit of background, we tried to avoid kaiju movies for the first couple of years that we were a show, because there was always the thought that our other kaiju show might come back. So out of respect to the host of that show and the potential for that show to come back, we just never did kaiju movies for like the first 2.5 years of that show.
Yeah.
Then finally Godzilla Minus One came out, and we're like, there's no way I'm not going to talk about Godzilla Minus One. So we did Godzilla Minus One, and that's kind of opened the floodgates. Since then, we've done Godzilla X Kong and Gojira 1954. So the kaiju gates are now open, but they haven't been open for that long. So I'm sure if we were doing kaiju movies from the start, we probably already would have done Varan and...
Oh, we would have done them all by now.
Oh, I mean, there's so many kaiju movies that we would have already done. But like I said, because we tried to avoid it, we didn't do them for a long time. So just a little bit of background for Mike and anybody else that might care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, this one, it's from 1966, and like the plot is like really like you just said, like a basic kaiju plot, like giant monster creatures rain havoc on Tokyo. These ones, because it's like they're kind of humanoid in how they're structured, but they almost look like they're created from like the land itself. Like they look like they have like shrubbery on them and earth, and it's weird. Because their humanoid build makes for them to like,
you know why,
be able to like kind of like run around and cause carnage. Where like in a Godzilla suit, like it's a little more limited, so he has like the other powers and abilities, where these ones, they literally are just running around. But you know, it's a lot of your typical stuff, a lot of sets with miniature models and all practical, and I thought it was really fun. Like
Twin Peaks, Russ Tamblyn in it?
Yeah, from the minute like they show up on screen, they're gargantuan creatures. It's like pretty nonstop pace. It never lets up. Like it doesn't lull at all. And then you get like the gargantuans causing carnage, then they start fighting each other for reasons. And to me, if you like kaiju movies, Godzilla movies, big monster movies, I think you'll get a super kick out of this one. It was just a lot of fun. And I'm surprised I've never seen it, because
yeah, man, it's Brad Pitt's favorite movie. How can you not see it?
I saw that. I saw it like on like a Sunday afternoon movie on television when I was like 10 years old, and I loved it instantly.
AMC
I've been a fan
Monster
ever
Fest.
since.
Hell yeah.
Yes. For me, it was WWOR from out of New York. They always had Godzilla or kaiju movies of some kind. It was usually Godzilla or Gamera, but one week they did War of the Gargantuans, and I was so fucking happy.
And Mike, if you were wondering why they were so humanoid, this is actually a pseudo sequel, actually, to Frankenstein Conquers the World, where they kind of explain more in the American version, like where they had dubbed Russ Tamblyn in his actual voice, where he's like, yeah, the remains of Frankenstein were missing, because that movie, and they separated, I guess, these two creations, the gargantuans themselves, came from pieces of that original monster from that movie.
Oh, nice. Is that one pretty good too?
Oh yeah, it's fucking awesome.
Good. Maybe I'll try to track that one down.
It's on Criterion, if you want, Criterion channel, if you're curious.
Yeah, I wonder if it's on Max, because this one was on Max under their Criterion section.
I think it is on Max, because oh wait, I could swear, because I remember when I first got when it was still called HBO Max and I got it, I went through and I literally put every single kaiju movie they had on my list, my playlist, and I could swear that was on there.
And if it's not, check it, see if it's under its other title, Frankenstein versus Byarugan, because that's what it's actually called in Japan.
Okay. I assume just typing in Frankenstein will give enough matches to where if it's there, it's going to show up from that.
Worst comes to worst, just do like a fucking week fucking trial of fucking Criterion, and you can watch it that way.
Yep.
Yeah. That's one thing I did want to mention is like the Criterion deal that Max has is really good. Like I've gone on there and just done searches for like everything Criterion and just made a playlist out of it because they've licensed. I know it's not everything that's on Criterion Channel, but they have a good amount and it's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, Criterion Channel is very interesting because they even like add shit that they don't have. Like they have like the Truman Show on there right now, which is kind of crazy. Like it's not even Criterion, so they do stream shit that's not even owned by them sometimes on there. That's kind of cool. Like certain movies, like they have like a whole Nicole Kidman section right now where they have like Dead Calm and shit. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I was adding like a bunch of like French New Wave on there just out of curiosity, just to see it.
Because on the Criterion Channel, they actually have like a playlist like called like directed by Cheryl Honda, and it's like everything that Cheryl Honda directed that they own, like Matango, Dagara, fucking the Mysterions, Varan's on there, fucking tons of fucking good movies.
Nice. All right. Well, that's War of the Gargantuas. Looks like I have a lot more monster movie homework to do now because of bringing this one up. So I will send it back to Venom for his third pick.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep the 2025 train going, and I'm going to talk about the movie that I literally just watched 3 hours ago. I left the theater 3 hours ago. I went to a 1:30 screening of this movie. This movie just dropped in theaters this past Friday, and it is called Presence. Now, I'm bringing it up here because it's a movie that we had talked about potentially doing on Fresh Cuts, to the point where we even talked about it on the last episode. But after watching it, both Mike and I have, kind of realized that this isn't really a horror movie. This movie, it is a lot like 2017's A Ghost Story with Casey Affleck. I'm not sure if you guys saw that.
The David Lowry movie. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. Where basically it's the same concept of Presence. It's basically a movie from the point of view of the ghost instead of the people living in the house. And overall, like as I'm walking out of the theater, I'm realizing this wasn't a horror movie at all. It's called drama horror on IMDb, I think, because there is a real life serial killer in this movie, or at least a beginning serial killer. They kind of lump it up into horror, but I think most horror fans would watch this and say, nah, this isn't remotely horror. I know Don would. Absolutely. But basically, this movie is just the story of, like I said, a ghost, someone who was murdered recently. They are now stuck in this house, and when the movie opens, the house is empty. And then we start to see like a realtor start showing the house to a family. The family ends up buying it and moving in. So we're literally watching this entire movie from the POV of the ghost. It never leaves that POV. Unlike A Ghost Story, we don't actually even see the ghost in this movie. The ghost in this movie is the camera. So everything that the camera sees is basically what the ghost sees. We don't actually, that might be a little bit of a spoiler, but I don't care. But overall, I actually really enjoyed this movie. I actually liked it a lot. It is not a horror movie in any way, shape, or form, but I actually liked kind of how the movie is presented, how we're looking at the movie through the eyes of this spirit, this presence, if you will, hence the title of the movie, and everything that it sees. And we can even see that this presence starts to kind of almost like certain members of the family more than other members of the family, to the point where the spirit will actually help people in this family in the house. It's discovered that the spirit is stuck here because it needs to do something. It needs to do something that it hasn't done yet. And once it does that thing, it should, in theory, be able to leave the house and, go to the afterlife. So that's kind of where the movie kind of jumps from. And like I said, not a horror movie in any way, shape, or form, at least in my opinion. But there's some really, really great performances in this movie. I think the dad is awesome. I think Lucy Liu, not Lacey Liu, excuse me. I think Lucy Liu actually plays an amazing bitch. this woman does not deserve her daughter in this movie because she's concentrating so much on her son. You know, the son is the golden boy and the daughter is the broken child. I'll leave it at that for now. I'm not going to get into why she has these opinions, but yeah, great performance by Lacey Liu. Great, Lucy. I'm so used to saying Lacey Liu now that I can't fucking say Lucy Liu. And 10 years ago, it was the complete opposite. I can't tell you how many times I called Lacey Liu Lucy Liu when we first started working together because I'm just used to saying that name. Now I'm used to saying Lacey Liu, and I can't fucking say the actual actress's name. Anyway, like I said, I enjoyed this movie. I thought there's some great performances in here. I like where the story goes. I like that one of the family members has their redemption moment at the end. And then we get a very, sad kind of ending. Like the actual last shot of the movie is actually kind of, I wouldn't say traumatic, but maybe for the person who sees the entity, it's traumatic for them. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the movie, but it is not horror at all. I haven't watched the trailer yet, so I'm not sure how the movie was marketed, if it was marketed as a ghost story. But it's solidly not a ghost story. Yes, the movie is about a ghost, but I can't call this, in good nature, I can't call this a haunted house movie. Even though, yes, there is a spirit in this house, once you see the movie, you'll understand where I'm coming from, that I can't really call this a haunted house movie. I can't call it a supernatural movie. I can't really call it a horror movie. But it's still solid. I think it still deserves to be seen. It's not necessarily something that I think is essential viewing in the theaters. But once it hits streaming, I would strongly suggest going ahead and giving this a shot. It's Steven Soderbergh, too. So, I mean, if you're familiar with his work, then you know he can make a damn good movie. And Presence is no different. It's a solid film, incredibly well made. It's just going to leave horror fans a little sour if you go in expecting a haunted house movie. So, take my words, heed my words, and realize that it's just a straight drama. But if you're into dramas that have a slightly supernatural tinge, then yeah, Presence is definitely one to check out.
Yeah, Soderbergh, the Takashi Miike of his time.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
He's got like fucking 3 movies coming out this year.
Yep. And the first one's pretty good, so.
I'm actually going to cut in and go before Derek because this was going to be my third pick too, and I assume Derek hasn't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet, no.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't have time.
I agree with what Venom said. I actually liked the movie a lot, but it was justified, turning it down because we were originally gonna do this on Fresh Cuts, but it's very easily drama and not horror. I mean, you could argue there's maybe
some theaters.
Well, that's I don't care about Dawn and
wow.
What's funny is I thought that they were driving towards a much bloodier ending. I thought the ending was going to be a lot bloodier, but it's actually fairly tame, which kind of takes away any horror. Like if the spirit would have done to that shitty family friend what I would have done to that shitty family friend if I was that spirit, then it's a horror movie. But that doesn't happen. So yeah, it's solidly a drama.
I liked it a lot. I like the filming technique. I like the gimmick. I like when movies try something different from a different vantage point. The story kept me engaged. It's not an overly complex story. It kind of, you could say it shows us cards of what direction they're heading in as far as different characters' intentions. And I thought it was very well done. It's just not really a horror movie outside of 1 or 2 moments that even those would be a timid version of horror at best. But other than that, and as far as whether Dawn would hate, look, I know what Dawn's reaction to this movie would be without him having to see it. I know what he would say, and I don't even want to make it about Dawn. Let's just say people, because he wouldn't be the only one.
Yeah.
There's people that would say this is a bad movie based on only the fact that they thought they were going to get some horror movie and they're not. And I understand why you could be initially disappointed if you wanted a horror movie, but at some point you have to put you have to like put that aside and say, but is the movie good or not? And when people can't do that, that's when I get annoyed, because you like saying it's not horror and I was disappointed, valid, but that doesn't make it a bad movie. So,
Yeah, no, I hear you.
and maybe people don't like it for other reasons, and that's a perfectly fine discussion and conversation to have. But to me, like it's a good movie, whether it's horror or not. But we're justified not doing it on a horror podcast as far as fresh cuts. I have no issue with that, but like.
Yeah.
I'm not going to accept that it's not a good movie just because it's not horror. Not that any of us are saying that, but so yeah. But anyways, yeah, Presence. I would recommend it. It just know that it's not horror, but it's good. So
Yeah.
not much more else to add because Venom said a lot of the same things I would have said. But so Derek, let's get to your third pick.
Okay, so I finally watched a little movie that I've been meaning to watch for a while, known as The Coffee Table.
Oh yeah.
Yo. If
I get anxiety just hearing the title.
Yeah, like I like, because you guys were very discreet in not talking about like what the actual plot of this movie was on this podcast. Thank you for that. But I also hate you for that because my mouth fucking dropped when it happened.
Oh.
Man, like I don't even know what I would do in that fucking situation and if that ever fucking happened. But wow, what a movie! I needed like a cigarette after watching that one.
Oh, I needed a break. Yeah. I had to sit quietly in my living room for a good 15, 20 minutes after the movie ended, just kind of processing what I just watched. Oof.
Fantastic, but like fucking my anxiety went up fucking from fucking 1 to fucking 500.
Yeah, and mind you, folks, 2 of the 3 of us here are not parents, and it still fucking affected us. So yeah, holy shit. Especially after that almost comical beginning with the couple arguing about the table at the furniture store, and then the catalyst event happens, and you're just like, I mean, just mouth open. You have no words at all. Like, oof.
And then it cuts to like a scene where, and then it cuts to a scene like, oh yeah, babies, yeah, like, oh yeah, that's great, yeah.
That's what I mean. And once the catalyst event happens, it almost turns into a dark comedy because it's like, the dad ends up sharing with one person what he actually did. And their conversation after that is almost funny because they're trying to figure out what do we do? What do we do? I don't know what to do. Blah, blah, blah. Like the guy just knew he was fucked the instant that it happened. Like he might as well have just put a bullet in his brain the instant that catalyst event happened, because there's no way you're going to get out of it. But then we get the actual ending. And somehow the ending is still a little bit of a gut punch, even though the catalyst event is like the greatest gut punch potentially in cinematic history. You still get a little bit of one at the end. And yeah, such a great movie. It did not make my top 10 for the mere fucking reason that I didn't want to rewatch it.
True.
I did not want to sit through it again. As much as I loved it, as much as it's incredibly well made, I did make it an honorable mention because I knew I wanted to bring it up at the very least. And then Don ended up bringing it up before I even did, or maybe it was Mike that brought it up before I did. But yeah, somebody brought it up before I did, and I was kind of surprised. But yeah, what a spectacular. I mean, I don't even know if that movie needed to be an hour and a half. Like that could have been a horror anthology segment, and I think it would have been just as effective. Not to say that I think it was bad as a feature length, not at all. It's incredibly effective, incredibly visceral, incredibly anxiety inducing. But man, it's still, they could have done the exact same story in a half hour, and it still would have packed the same punch. So. I still give it a high recommend. I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, prepare yourself, especially if you're a parent, prepare yourself. But anybody that's going to sit down to watch The Coffee Table, just get ready. It's something that you've never seen before. And man, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a hard movie to discuss with people who haven't seen it because the setup or what sets the table for the movie happens so early, and
Set the
it's
table.
so yeah, it's so like traumatizing that like you have to let that be a surprise. Like
Yeah.
what otherwise, I mean, it would still be like horrific anyway, but like you have to let the person experience
way.
that without
Yeah.
having any idea.
If anybody out there spoils this movie for someone who hasn't seen it, I hope you burn in the deepest, darkest pits of hell. This movie needs to be experienced fresh. Like, you can't tell anybody almost anything about it. Like, literally, the only thing you could talk about would be the first 5 minutes, the argument at the furniture store. After that, if you spoil this at all, I fucking hope you get cancer. Sorry.
Knock
A
on wood.
cancer table. All right. The only I did watch that new one on Shudder with Nick Frost. What
Which
is
one?
it?
There's like
Getaway?
5. Oh, the Getaway
Yeah.
one?
With my future Irish wife, Aisling Bay.
Yeah.
Granted,
a
she
nice
doesn't look as
twist.
good as she usually does in this movie. She usually looks almost supermodel-like, but in this movie, she plays a mom, so, she's not all sexified.
She's like, I'm married to Nick Frost. I don't have to look beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. You don't got to look good if you marry Nick Frost. It's not a prerequisite.
Yeah, that one had a nice, cool twist to it to subvert
It
expectations
was
a
decent.
little.
Yeah, for a horror comedy, I've noticed myself kind of distancing myself more and more from horror comedies because I haven't really, probably not since like What We Do in the Shadows and Shaun of the Dead has a horror comedy really been that just spectacular experience that perfectly balances the horror and the comedy. It's easily been at least 10 years since I've seen a really good one. So, we've seen a couple of decent ones here and there. Kill All Neighbors was halfway decent. That other one with Jonah Hill, that anthology where he had the hammer of something. It was actually a demon penis. I forget what movie that was, but that one was halfway decent for a horror comedy. But overall,
I was gonna say, I think for me, when it comes to horror comedies, my issue is I'm more picky about my comedy than I am my horror, as far as like genre or type of comedy. So like, if it's a type of comedy that I'm not really into, it can like bring down like a horror comedy. Whereas like horror, I pretty much like every genre, like potentially, right? Potentially, I like any genre of horror. So like, it's rarely the horror aspects of a horror comedy that bring it down, which some people are the exact opposite. But for me, I'm just, if it's not this type of comedy I like, I can like tune out almost like.
You know what's fucking crazy? Like, I was thinking of this the other day, off topic. The Tucker and Dale?
Yes.
I've heard of it.
You know the director of that, Sally Field's son?
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why she was in the Little Evil, the Netflix movie that he did.
Has he done it? Has he done anything since?
Yeah, he did Little Evil on Netflix. The kind of like Omen comedy.
Yeah, with Adam Scott in it.
Yeah, and I guess
do it.
Yeah, in his next movies, he's doing the fucking Clown in the Cornfield. He's doing you ever hear of that book? He's doing a movie version of that book. So,
oh wow.
Yeah. But that was a kind of off topic, but it was like, I love Tucker and Dale, like Alan Tudyk in that movie. He's fucking great, as he is in most things that he's in. You are about to be rescued.
Oh man. Okay. I guess we can move on if we've got any news. I got a couple things. One is that I guess the Toxic Avenger remake is going to be saved after all. It is going to get a theatrical release. They figured it out, which I never understood what the issue was to begin with, because you're putting Terrifier movies in the theater,
it was violence, yeah. Well, they canceled Toxic Avenger before Terrifier 2 hit theaters. So yeah, they were very concerned that it was going to be a little too violent for general audiences, but then Terrifier 2 and 3 have come out so they changed their mind.
Yeah, I think it was due to the fact that they couldn't find like a distributor too to actually put the movie out in theaters. Like a
Yeah,
Bloody Disgusting or like something like that, you know what I mean? They couldn't find somebody to actually, hey, let's put this in theaters.
yeah, and it was interesting too because like I figured like okay if they can't get a theatrical release that they were gonna just license it to VOD, but they didn't. So maybe they were like holding out hope because like it's been a while since that news came out about it not
That's
getting
when I
a
see
theatrical
fucking
release.
Elijah Wood as the Penguin in that movie.
But yeah, so it doesn't have a date yet, but it said this year, so hopefully.
That'll probably be the end of the year for our fucking luck.
Well, hopefully, I'm just hoping it's wide enough that like, even if it's like, even if I gotta go like on a weekend and like I can't be choosy about it, I'll get there.
Poor fucking Peter Dinklage is doing Tubi movies. Give him some fucking money, goddammit.
He's doing Tubi movies now?
Yeah, he was in The Thicket. That was a Tubi movie.
Eggers is attached to a Labyrinth remake, which is interesting.
Fucking Willem Dafoe is Sir Didymus. Let's fucking go.
It's weird because
like
in the same week we got news that Eggers was doing a werewolf movie, and then a couple of days later that he's doing the sequel to Labyrinth. This isn't a remake; it's a sequel. So I'm actually mildly interested. Yeah, it's a sequel. It is a sequel.
Bring back Jennifer Connelly as old as Sarah. Do it.
That might be the plan. You never
that
know.
actually makes me more curious because, like, the one thing before I knew that it was a sequel, my kind of take on it was like, okay, it's Eggers. He hasn't really missed with me yet. I'm sure it's gonna be good, but you got to do it way different than Jim Henson because there's only one Jim Henson. But now that it's a sequel, I'm like, well, now it kind of has, unless like there's some justification that like turns the Goblin world.
You need this?
Yeah, and I'm like, is it gonna? Are they gonna write that the Goblin world got turned into like some even darker shit? Because
how would you recast that role?
Maybe the Jim Henson Company will like be collaborating because
that'd be fun.
Oh, they would have to. God, yeah, it's their property. Yeah, they're not going to license that out.
And I'm fucking excited. I'm like the world's hugest fucking Labyrinth fan. I have fucking a Labyrinth fucking chess set. Fucking like, I love that fucking movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah. It's one of my wife's favorite movies. We actually have like multiple action figures from that movie, like throughout the house. She loves it.
I have like the fucking all the Fright Rag shirts. I spend tons of money on Labyrinth shit.
Nice. I just bought the Jareth Funko Pop because it's been out of print for like 10 years, so I finally was able to find one. It cost me a pretty penny, but
does he have
I'm
the bulge?
glad I got it. No, they're not gonna. A toy company's not gonna put a bulge on the fucking action figure.
That'd be amazing.
Maybe if it was like a statue or something, then yeah, absolutely. But I mean, this is Funko Pops are just kids' toys. So,
that was actually the funniest aspect of Moods is he actually has a close-up picture of the bulge from his room.
I'm assuming then if it's going to be a sequel, then there's going to be musical numbers in it too, right? Like,
that you got me on. I mean, I almost hope it's not a fucking musical. Don't forget, the first one was a musical because of David Bowie.
Yeah,
David Bowie made it a musical. I mean, I don't know that if any other actor played Jareth, I don't know that would have stayed a musical.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, but did they cast him because they were making a musical, or did you know what I'm saying?
Offhand, I'm not sure, but I mean, if David Bowie decided to do it and it wasn't a musical, he would use his clout to make it one. I mean, his voice is his greatest feature. So, if he's going to be in a movie, he's going to want to do at least one song on the score, if not the entire fucking score. So,
and I own like 5 copies of that soundtrack, so that goes out.
Oh yeah, I love that movie. Oh fucking yeah, I have Labyrinth in like 4 different formats. Absolutely. Great.
I'm still contemplating buying that new Shout Factory release.
I already have a 4K of Labyrinth, so
that's the thing. Like, I'm like, do I really, kind of like, I want the fucking ball. It comes with a crystal ball.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait for more detail because I don't know which one he's supposed to be doing first. the werewolf movie or the Labyrinth remake.
I'm not even sure if the werewolf movie is real because I heard one quick snippet about it, whereas the Labyrinth thing I've heard from multiple sources. So.
Yeah, plus it's been like adding actual fucking legit websites to the Labyrinth, so probably Labyrinth's gonna be first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, cool. That's the only news items I really had. Do you guys?
So we're talking about fucking no. Let's get into the tight leather. Hoorah!
Oh God!
All right. Well, in that case, yeah. So I didn't say it at the beginning, but this theme is kind of like Volume 1 of American Giallo, which is kind of an interesting subject in itself. And we're going to be talking the clairvoyant and cruising. So we're going to take a short break and be right back with Al Pacino and friends.
James Remar.
It started as a game and turned into a nightmare. She was an art student. She had the power to see things beyond the normal range of human senses. She saw murder. Cursed with a terrifying talent, she became a silent witness to murder.
I saw the drawings, Verna.
Two men were drawn into the killings. One was a cop.
What do you want?
The other a TV reporter.
We both know those killings aren't just another statistic. I want to use them on my show. How do you make these drawings?
My hand takes over.
Well, how does that happen?
It's unconscious.
I'm not going to let anything happen to you.
Both men became involved in her life. Both men loved her. One of them had to kill her.
I want the girl kept out of this. Don't put her on the show.
Are you paying her rent? What's all the interest?
He might try to kill her.
The Killing Hour, a film in the finest tradition of suspense.
How would you like to disappear?
Disappear?
Go undercover.
You know this man?
Who's here? I'm here. You're here.
These victims are all the same physical type.
What about him, Skip?
Late 20s, 140, 150 pounds. Dark hair, dark eyes.
Have you ever seen him before?
I want to send you out there to see if you can attract this guy.
How, where?
A New York City detective in search of a killer is about to disappear into the night.
Is it dangerous?
I can't talk about it.
How do you know you're going to end up the same person when it's over?
An odyssey to the edge of city life.
Bartenders are starting to give me some information. There's this name keeps popping up all the time. There he is. The one with the hat.
Is that the one that followed you?
Yeah.
Why didn't you go with him?
I don't know. I think you should check him.
If you want to play, I'll play with you.
He's the wrong guy.
Prints don't match.
What he sees,
Who's here?
what he feels,
I don't think I can do the job, Captain. I don't think I can handle it.
I'm here.
There's just stuff going down. I don't think I can deal with it.
You here?
what he experiences, what he discovers will change his life forever. Al Pacino.
Who's here? I'm here. You're here.
Cruising.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. Promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go! And now, on with the show.
Okay, we are back talking our main features of the episode. And the first one, in chronological order, we're going with is Cruising. Probably most known for Al Pacino and William Friedkin directing it, the director of The Exorcist. Also Paul Sorvino, Karen Allen, what's his name? Is it Joe Spinell? Is it this?
Mike Starr.
Yeah. There's a lot of recognizable faces in this.
Fucking Al Bundy. Al Bundy is in here.
James Remar.
Yeah,
James
fucking
Remar.
Ajax from the Warriors.
Yeah, a lot of folks looking younger than I'm used to seeing them too. So this one, a police officer goes undercover in the underground S&M gay subculture of New York City to catch a serial killer who is preying on gay men. I'm watching a movie like this and I'm like, man, would like theaters or studios even touch like material like this now outside of like the art house? I don't know, because this was like a major motion picture release back then, and they don't really shy away from like the clubs. I was thinking it when I was watching this. I've seen it before, but like not in a while. And while I was watching like the scenes, I was like, damn, these are the clubs that Jesse from Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was dreaming about in his nightmares.
I was trying to look for Marshall Bell in the background.
Yeah. So, anyways, Al Pacino takes a job as an undercover detective, and it looks like he's a little apprehensive, of course, to take the assignment, but then he goes along with it, and he has to immerse himself in the culture, get to know different people because he's trying to find the guy who's doing all these killings. I will say, like, it is pretty police procedural. I am curious because to me the big thing is like how everyone interprets the ending, because I've read like different theories about what that ending actually means, and we'll get into that. There's a couple different plausible things that I've read that I'm willing to go with, but I am curious what my co-hosts think. But before we get like to the ending specifically, I just want to know what your guys' thoughts on the movie was. So Venom, I'll start with you. I'm assuming it's not your first time seeing Cruising, but what did you think of it?
This was my second time watching Cruising, but I hadn't seen it in about 25 years since the first time, so it was practically a first-time watch. So, yeah, holy shit. Where do I start? I think the most glaring, aside from the homosexual stuff, which I'll get to in a little bit, the most glaring issue in this movie for me is Al Pacino's performance. Have we ever seen a more phoned in fucking performance in the history of cinema? Like, in every single scene, it seemed like Al Pacino did not want to be there. And I can highlight one very specific scene. The scene where Paul Sorvino as Captain Edelson first talks to Al Pacino about the culture. Now, my friends, if a macho New York cop is asked if he's ever let a man suck his dick, what do you think the reaction is going to be? It's going to be fucking outright, what the fuck are you talking about? What the hell kind of question is that? What does Pacino do? He fucking chuckles. He literally laughs, which is exactly what a closeted gay man would do. Like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm not gay. Ha 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 ha. Pacino is so terrible in this fucking movie. I don't even understand why he decided to do it. Now, when you watch all the special features and interviews with Friedkin, you find out why this performance is so bad. Pacino apparently did not prepare for this movie in any way, shape, or form. He basically knew that the movie was going to be a police procedural about a serial killer, and he took the role. He had no idea all the gay club scenes that were going to be in here, all the gay sex scenes that were going to be in here. And yes, the final form of this movie is an hour and 42 minutes. There's 40 minutes of footage that was left on the cutting room floor, most of it being homosexual sex. The ratings board was just like, nah, no way, you're not. I mean, I'm shocked that they were able to leave the fisting scene in the movie. Even though we don't actually see any penetration, we know what's happening. And in 1980, I can't believe they put that on film. Anyway, the point is, Pacino had no idea that he was going to have to try to act gay, that he was going to have to do these dance sequences, that he just came into the movie so unprepared that once he actually realized what the movie was about, it seems like he just gave up on it. And he just phoned in his performance. And Friedkin talks about it all the time. And I love William Friedkin because he does not censor himself. William Friedman will tell you to your fucking face what he thinks of you. And every time I see an interview with Friedkin about Cruising, I love it because he's so uncensored. He's just like, Al Pacino is fucking garbage. Like, he literally said those exact words. Al Pacino is a terrible actor who doesn't prepare for his roles. He doesn't give a shit about the material. He's a scumbag. Just like all these different insults, and I'm just sucking. And I like Al Pacino, mind you, but I'm sucking up all this new information and loving every second of it. That Friedkin and Pacino just hated each other on the production of this movie. From what I understand, who was it? Who was supposed to be in this role? Damn it. It was in the special feature and I forgot already. I can't remember, but there's somebody else.
I kind of wish James Remar actually played the role.
Honestly, I would have rather James Remar played it. Absolutely. At least he could have done the pretend gay much better. Anyway, like I said,
because everybody else is fucking great in the movie.
for the most part, everyone is great in this movie. But the reason that everyone is great and so realistic is that there's no actors in any of these club scenes. All of these club scenes, those are actual patrons of the club. Those are actual homosexual men who hang out at this club. Not one actor. Al Pacino is the only actor in those club scenes, literally. And I mean, the realism there is awesome. So I fucking love that. Now let's talk about the homosexual stuff. Now, when this movie was being made, there were protests. The gay community just was so convinced that this was going to be a gay bashing movie because it's a movie about a serial killer who kills gay men. So obviously they're going to make their assumptions about it. And during the protests of the filming of the scene of the movie, a lot of the audio takes couldn't be utilized because of the protesters purposely yelling. Like as soon as the director would say quiet on set, action, the protesters would just start yelling. They literally would call Al Pacino a faggot, a homo, a cocksucker, just everything while they're trying to film the movie. So when you watch the movie, you notice that a lot of it is dubbed. A lot of this movie is dubbed, and that's why, because of all the protests. So, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't think this is a gay bashing movie. The way that I look at it is, if everything that's portrayed in this movie in those gay leather bars actually does occur in real life, then it's not sensationalism. It's just reality.
Yeah, it's embracing
it. Exactly. And the funny thing is, too, is that the killer in this movie never says, like, oh, I hate these faggots, or, you know, I purposely kill gay men. No, I'm pretty sure the killer himself is gay. Well, we'll get to the interpretation of the ending here in a little bit. But yeah, I don't see any gay bashing in this movie whatsoever. And that's the thing. Some people are so fucking sensitive. They just hear the word gay and they think that, oh, the movie is going to be against gay people. If anything, Steve Burns actually cares about these gay people. There's one scene after someone is arrested incorrectly. He's incorrectly accused of being the killer. And Pacino has this great line about, I don't want to run these guys in just because they're gay. That doesn't make sense. And so it shows that Steve Burns actually does care about these people, whether he sees himself as a gay man, like, because there's multiple instances in the movie where after he does, like, he never engages in any homosexual sex in the movie. In the director's cut, he does, but obviously we'll never see that. But it's just one of those things where he was so unprepared. Maybe if he would have taken some time to try to watch, you know, counterculture stuff and see the way that homosexuals act around each other, maybe his performance might have been a little bit more organic, a little bit more believable. I'm going to stand here right now and say this is Al Pacino's worst performance. Fucking bar none. Now, granted, I haven't seen every single Al Pacino movie in existence, not by any stretch, but of the dozens upon dozens of Pacino movies I've seen, this is his worst performance. It is so fucking bad, so phoned in, that it's a detriment to the movie. It actually brings the goddamn movie down, and that's unfortunate. Because there's a solid story here. There's a solid story. There's a solid progression of events. But it just all gets railroaded by Pacino's terrible performance, by the probably the edits that the MPAA made them do. Like I said, over 40 minutes of footage was cut out of this movie. A lot of it was homosexual sex, not all of it, but a lot of it was. So yeah, I'm just going to sit here and say I am not a fan of this movie. If anything, I like the gay scenes in this movie because they're the only scenes in the movie that come off as organic and believable to me. All the scenes in the clubs, hell, even the fisting scene, like I actually believe that guy was getting fisted in the club. Like it's the most organic, believable scenes in the entire movie. And then fucking Pacino, every time he has a tinge of, oh, I might be becoming gay, he runs to his girlfriend and fucks her quickly.
Marion, I need sex now.
Oh, I laughed during both of those sex scenes. I laughed my fucking ass off the whole time because I'm like, you don't want to have sex with this woman. You're just trying to prove to yourself that you're not gay. And that's fucking hysterical. That's hysterical to me. So, yeah, just overall, this movie has a lot of problems. Yes, there are some great performances in here. Sorvino gives a solid performance. Karen Allen gives a solid performance. Joe Spinell plays a scumbag like no one else on the planet, and he does it again here. Just so beautifully done.
Team Mike Starr, which is awesome.
Yeah, Mike Starr, James Remar. I say Al Bundy is in this movie, but ultimately Ed O'Neill is in one scene, and I don't even think he had a speaking line. He's one of the cops that walks into the steakhouse. But I instantly noticed, I'm like, that's fucking Al Bundy. Even though it was 1980, almost 10 years before Married with Children, it's recognizable. He's a very recognizable actor. So yeah, just to cut off my general thoughts here before I get too long-winded, I'm going to say this is a very, very imperfect movie. Like, there's a skeleton of a good movie here, but because of Pacino's lack of involvement, because of him and the director butting heads and constantly arguing and everything else, and then Pacino, I'm partially convinced Pacino purposely sabotaged this production by giving a shitty performance. Like, he didn't want this movie to be a success. Not that this movie was ever going to be a success in 1980. I watched Siskel and Ebert. Siskel and Ebert, when they reviewed this back in 80, tore this movie apart. They were just like, this movie makes no fucking sense. It was a waste of my time, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's quite that bad. I think there's a lot of good things in this movie. The kill scenes are fairly well done, nice and bloody. The killer or killers are, fairly well performed. Well, the movie's well edited, things like that. Like, from a technical aspect, it's a decent movie.
Yeah, the score's great.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the movie has a lot to love, but the things that bring it down are so glaring that you can't ignore it. You can't ignore Pacino's performance in this movie. You just can't. And I love Pacino. Scarface is one of my favorite fucking movies of all time, which was literally only a year after this one, believe it or not. And man, if I'd have seen Cruising before Scarface, I would not have the love for Pacino that I actually do have. So I'm just going to chalk this up as Pacino not caring about this project. Not that he's necessarily a bad or unprepared actor. He just didn't really give a shit about this.
Yeah, he was coming off The Godfather too, so he was like, ah.
Exactly, big time. And he probably already had the Scarface script in his hand by the time he was shooting this one. So he already knows his next movie is going to be great. So, yeah, phoned in big time. But so a very flawed movie, but there is a lot of good stuff to watch. I still would give it a mild recommend. I would not call it essential viewing. If you are a member of the LGBTQ community, then maybe it's worth watching just as a piece of history. Something that the homosexual community protested greatly in 1980. Maybe as a homosexual in 2025, you can look at it with different eyes and appreciate it a little bit more. But yeah, overall, a good movie that doesn't come anywhere near great. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. As far as the community, like, having a problem with it and protesting it, I can understand through the lens of that community back then, because when they're already struggling, like, they're still struggling to even be accepted in society, that like they would be nervous at like any type of depiction of stereotypes would do a disservice to like them just trying to be like treated equally.
It was the same thing that happened with Kevin Smith's Dogma. When I went to college in Pittsburgh, Kevin Smith world premiere Dogma in Pittsburgh at a small theater out there. I went to the premiere because I loved Kevin Smith at the time. He had already done like 3 movies, and I was already a big fan. At the premiere, religious groups were there boycotting the movie. Like they were actually doing like prayer circles. They burned Kevin Smith in effigy out front of the theater. Like cops got called because they burned him in effigy, blah, 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 because it was a hazard, obviously. And then I watched the movie and it's like, I don't think they've seen the movie. Obviously, I was at the world premiere, but it's like maybe they should see the movie before protesting it.
Yeah,
and that's exactly
the Silence
yeah.
of the
Religious
Lambs.
people protest everything, though.
When they
but it's the same thing I would have said to the homosexual community in 1980. How about you watch the movie first, and then if you think that it's gay bashing, then protest it. But to protest it while it's being made, like, what if it's the complete opposite? What if it's a movie glorifying homosexuality and you guys are fucking sabotaging it? Yeah, you didn't think of that, did you?
Yeah, but I don't equate the two because I would say they were a marginalized group and Catholics aren't.
Yeah.
Like, so to me, it's not the same. And two, because what I'm guessing is the community. Probably back then they were like, okay, this is going to depict a very specific like group within our community, but it's people are going to see it and stereotype that, oh, if you're gay, this is
like
the type of stuff.
Leather.
This is what all gay people are. Because that kind of stereotype, I wouldn't say it persists now, but when I was growing up, like even in the 90s when I was growing up, a lot of that stereotype existed. And then as we got out of the 90s and into the early 2000s, I think that's when we started to, not we as in us, but like society started to be like, okay, we understand now, like gay people like to go clubbing, but plenty of them don't just like anybody else. There's people that like to go clubbing and there's people that don't.
See, I understand your point about them being a marginalized group, but you could say that about any fucking group. I mean, most horror movies have a white man as the killer. Does that mean that white men are predominantly the only ones doing killing? No. Let me finish my sentence. Stats, yes. Let me finish my sentence. Are the only ones killing people on this planet? No, not even fucking close. So why is it then that we don't make that assumption? Like if a Friday the 13th movie comes out, why aren't white men protesting it saying, oh, look, Jason's white. They're saying that we're all serial killers. But if it has to do with a
society doesn't do that. That's why.
Excuse me? Did you just fucking say that, Mike? Holy shit. Get out of your fucking house. Again, I'm a minority, and maybe I've just seen it more than you guys, but yeah, you can't tell me that people don't do that.
Yeah, they stereotypical white guys. You're right, Venom. I agree.
Statistically,
and I understand. I understand that I'm stretching the point or that I'm exaggerating, but I am purposely exaggerating to make my point. That again. The homosexuals in 1980 that were boycotting this movie are just as close-minded as the gay bashers who assumed that gay leather bars are the norm for gay people.
Yeah.
They're just as bad as each other. They just don't see that because one is a quote-unquote normal member of society, so they're looked at as correct. But, I mean, I have just as much animosity to the homosexuals that were boycotting this movie because you didn't do your due diligence to find out, does it need to be boycotted? Just like the religious people with Dogma, just like, rape victims at screenings of I Spit on Your Grave. It's the same thing. Everybody thinks that a movie is making a broad generalization about an entire community. And it's like, no, Mike said it perfectly, or actually Derek might have said it. This movie is not about gay people as a whole. It's about a very small section of gay leather club, patrons, people that go to these clubs. That's a small sect of the gay community. If you're going to be so shitty and just assume that every gay person likes this because it's in cruising, then you're part of the problem. And you're almost as big a problem as these marginalized groups that get offended at every little fucking thing. Again, I like to think that being a minority, I've seen it not just for minorities. I've seen it against gay people. I've seen it against foreigners. I've seen it against women even. But the point is that yes, there's prejudice all through the world, and all of it is just as wrong as the other. So that's the only point I'm trying to make. The homosexuals in 1980 that were boycotting this should have shut their mouths and watched the movie first. Then, if you have a problem with it, fucking boycott it. And they probably still would have had a problem with it ultimately. I don't know what's going through the minds of homosexuals in 1980. I have no fucking clue. So maybe they still would have gotten offended. But the point is, if you're boycotting it while it's filming it, you're being ignorant. You're being prejudiced and you're being ignorant, and it's unnecessary. And you're just as bad as somebody who uses the N-word or someone who calls a homosexual the F-word or whatever the case may be. So,
or if you spoil the coffee table.
Or if you spoil the coffee table. Exactly. The point is, get off your fucking high.
Those two.
Just not talking about my thoughts on the movie, goddamn.
I think there's genuine concerns versus conflated concerns, and I think back then when we lived in a society where just your normal everyday homosexual, for starters, probably wasn't even out of the closet. They had genuine concerns that this is how, if this is the majority, or in major films, if this is the majority way of how we're represented, they had concerns. Now, were they wrong? Sure. Because the movie, like you said, well, once the movie came out, it's like, okay. But I also think that, like, if Cruising was to come out now, I think there would not be those same concerns. Now, there could still be some protests because some people would just not be happy about it, period. But I think the homosexual community today in 2025 would have less concerns because they would feel that society as a whole would see a movie like Cruising and be like, oh yeah, we fully understand that it's just one subsect within a community. Whereas back then, I think the genuine fear was because even your normal everyday, the homosexual folks that you couldn't pick out of a crowd, those people that weren't out, they were afraid that, like, okay, people are going to see this movie and think that that's just who we all are. Now, looking through the lens of today, we can look back on that and say, yeah, you probably were overly concerned about it. Like, I get it, get that now, but back then, I mean, I would have to like talk to someone old enough to have been back then that's homosexual.
Yeah,
get their thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because this is actually not the only movie that came out with like the subject matter from that year. There's another movie that came out called Windows, which kind of explored the opposite of male homosexuality. It was lesbian homosexuality.
Well, wasn't there the same thing with like Dress to Kill a little bit too?
Yeah, there was some boycotting because of the trans stuff in that.
Because back then there happened to be like a habit of like depicting homosexuals as like these deviant killer, like repressed sexual deviant killers.
Yeah, there was boycotting Silence of the Lambs for the same reason, because they hear that the killer's a transvestite, even though now I could say, you know what I mean?
Yeah, now I could say by the time Silence of the Lambs came out, I think society as a whole had already progressed enough to where it probably wasn't as big of a deal. But 10, 15 years earlier, I can understand why the homosexual community would be like, why do these movies keep coming out? That's like the major way we're depicted. I think that's what the protests were about. It wasn't that like I don't know. I ran into a roadblock there, but like that's my point. That's my only point of like why back then. And I agree with you in the sense that like, hey, ideally you would like people to see the movies first, but I can see the genuine concern at the same time.
Because we didn't have internet back then either, so this would be the way that a lot of people would see.
Yes, this was a lot of like for normal, average, middle America that like weren't, at least not knowingly, because gay people were around. It's just that they weren't out. So to your middle American person that didn't interact necessarily, like it's like, wow, every time they get it like a taste, quote unquote, not literal, but like a taste of like who we are as a people. It always seems to be like this depiction on screen.
Yeah, especially
so that to me was what the genuine concern was back then.
Especially
we could debate whether the concern was wrong once the movie came out and they saw what it was all about, but I can understand where the concern was. Okay, Derek.
Yes. Now I'm gonna talk. God damn it. But anyways, the thing that I was gonna say is like the aspect where I could see like it kind of like polarizing it too. Is like during that whole Al Pacino dance where it keeps cutting back to, Pacino doing like his fucking peacock dance with his hair, and then all of a sudden fucking there's like three dudes fucking making out with each other. I'm like, what the fuck is going like that stuff's kind of polarizing on a first, like if I was for my first time watching this stuff, I'm like, whoa, that's kind of I never seen that before, but on the second watch you get used to it because you fucking it's coming in that sense too. But overall, like, yeah, Al Pacino dance that fucking took me off guard, and the fucking naked cowboy that scene fucking. When I was fucking like 12 when I first saw this movie. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But anyways, yeah, the aspects were like I said were that time period of New York, like this era of film where you had like this movie that came out, Cruising, but you also had like this little small thriller movie called Windows that came out where instead of like the male sexuality, it's dealing with like female sexuality. So I would be kind of curious, like, how that community felt about that movie as well, especially with that side of it. It was kind of a cool concept that these two movies came out the same year, dealing with some of the same themes and shit like that. But yeah, I like Cruising to an extent. There's some things like kind of like director's choices that kind of confuse me. Like every time you see the killer's hands in this movie, it's actually played by the last victim, which is kind of a interesting concept, but it's kind of confusing it because the killer's face never stays the same. Because even like when they try to tint it out, you can see, hey, that's the guy who died in the beginning of the movie. That's kind of a cool aspect of it. But yeah, Al Pacino, I agree. Like he's not really into it as much as like say that, but there's enough going on in the movie where it's like that's not really taking me out of it too much because there's some other like Joe Spinell. Like I'll take any like time I could get to see like a Joe Spinell do like a movie, because he's very limited in like how many movies he's in. So this is like another staple of that thing where like he's even teamed up with Mike Starr, which I know from like fucking Dumb and Dumber and Ed Wood. But yeah, this is a movie that I kind of agree with Venom. It's not one of my favorites, not even like one of my favorite freaking movies. I would say it's still essential, but you like go into it a straight mind. It's not going to be for fucking everyone, especially with like some of the police procedural shit that goes on, which I could even say about the next movie we're talking about. Spoiler alerts on some of my thoughts of that. But yeah, Cruising. I like Jack Nisha's score. That's pretty awesome. But overall, it's like it's not one that I go back to that often. But it's good that I finally get to talk about it. It's some good filmmaking. Yeah, go ahead, Vic.
I was just gonna say, yeah, it's kind of tricky when you try to do a category of like American Giallo, because like I think like obvious picks were like to do like De Palma stuff, because I think he gets pretty close to the spirit of Giallo.
Yeah.
A lot of like other stuff, like when you try to look up like American Giallo lists, a lot of them like the synopsis is like, oh, okay, this sounds like it, but then when you watch it, they tend to be more police procedural than like Giallo, especially. And like I think this one of the things that takes it down is like you were already talking about it, Derek. Some of the decisions, because with either Giallos or police procedurals, you're supposed to kind of like be in the dark about who the killer is, with different techniques as far as like writing and some like sleight of hand. But I feel like in this one, because of like some of the decisions the director made, it almost felt like cheap the way they're trying to keep you confused.
Yeah, because like I just saw this guy die like the last fucking scene, and now he's killing somebody. Like,
yeah, or like you said, like, oh, using the hands of this guy, or like the face of this guy, or the hair looks slightly. It's almost like, okay, yes,
and
you're
you get the
keeping me
fucking
in the dark,
ending,
but
you're even fucking more mind fucked. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like I love a good mystery, but do it in the story, not with like these cheap tactics of like literally just using different people. So of course we're gonna be confused and not know if you're filming.
So let me get. So let's just get into the fucking ending. Is Al Pacino the killer the whole time?
I think he's one of the killers. I think
Okay,
there's multiple killers in this movie.
I think there's a few killers. Yes.
Yeah, because the guy that they got, the guy that they actually arrested who tried to stab Pacino did kill someone. We saw him kill somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, yes, multiple killers, and Pacino just got himself caught up in this culture and has
Kind of
now
like a Bay of
become
Blood.
another. So Pacino is probably the next killer. Oh well, no, because I think Pacino killed the neighbor, right? The redhead.
That's who I think he killed.
Yeah, Pacino killed the neighbor, so he's already a killer. That's right. So yeah, I think there's multiple killers in this movie. That's my interpretation.
Kind of like a Tenebrae situation.
I think he killed the neighbor because he was closeted, or at least like questioning himself, and he's like, I can't be doing that with my pretty wife, Karen, or girlfriend, right?
Marion.
Yeah.
Barely girlfriend. They broke up.
Yeah, by the end
He's
of the
I
movie,
left you for Indiana Jones after this. Fuck you.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I think it was an American. I think it was an American Beauty situation. The gay neighbor that was like closeted.
Right.
And
Chris Cooper
couldn't. Once it got out to someone that that he's like, I can't have anyone knowing. So.
Yep.
That's my
valid.
take. That Pacino. I can't say definitively that Pacino killed anyone else, but I think he definitely killed the neighbor at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because he almost killed the neighbor's boyfriend in that one scene when he was in his underwear in the apartment. I was convinced he was going to try to kill him there. More as a defense of the other guy, because at first it seemed like they were getting friendly. They hung out a little bit. They had dinner a couple of times, blah, blah, blah. Not romantically, just like, a couple of guys hanging out. So I honestly thought that he was going to kill the shitty boyfriend as a defense. But no, he ends up killing the innocent one, which is interesting. But again, whatever.
Naked Cowboy MVP of this movie.
Yeah, what the fuck was up with that fucking black guy slapping people at the police station?
That wasn't
like what? What the fuck? No, I'm
punches
serious.
Pacino
I want
in
an
the face.
explanation. Do the police have a gay basher on payroll? Like I don't understand any of that.
He's just like chilling in his office until his services are needed.
Naked. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it's not just that he was like a police enforcer, but like his getup. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What is going on
That's
here?
the what the fuck scene of this movie.
Oh, I also gotta say, man, simulated oral sex in old movies is fucking hysterical. You ever look really closely, like they're just kind of bobbing their heads up and down, but it's like,
Yeah,
wait a
it's like-
minute. That angle doesn't work. How? No. It's
Like that scene in Casino where Joe Pesci pulls the girl's head down. Ah!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, simulated oral just always looks funny to me. I always laugh. It's like, why even do it? Like, why portray it if you're not at least going to make it look real? Obviously you're not going to make your actors actually do it. Although in this movie, they were actually gay patrons. It's like you could have just had a couple of them do it and just shoot it in a way that you don't see any penetration or whatever. But I don't know. It just, simulated oral just looks so funny to me. And like, no matter how serious the movie is, I just burst out laughing. I can't deal with it.
Yeah, and Venom, you already mentioned it too, but like the depiction of the city, I know the city back then, like a lot more unsafe, but like it makes for great movie, like a movie aesthetic. It feels movies in any big city like New York, Chicago, even like San Francisco from like the 70s, even going into like probably like the first half of the 80s, it feels like the cities themselves are such characters in these movies. And like as a young person growing up, I remember always thinking like, man, like they look so dangerous but so cool at the same time. Just how everything was like at night, and the sounds, the lights, just everything. Because I grew up in like compared to these cities, relatively a small city. So like I would go to the Bay Area, but I would usually be there during the day as a kid, not night. So like I always had like the curiosity of like, oh, what would it be like to be in these big, dangerous, cool cities like at night?
Yeah. By the way,
but they all got cleaned up by the time I got old enough.
Well, I mean, New York, like I said before we started recording, I was there. I've been to New York. I'm from Connecticut. I used to go to New York every other weekend, starting from when I was like 8 years old. So that would have been like 1978. And even though, yes, New York looked menacing, it looked unsafe, I don't know. If you had the right attitude, 80s New York is almost safer than New York today. Like, yeah, maybe you're not seeing as many prostitutes in Times Square, if any, since they cleaned up Times Square. There's no more adult video stores and all that shit. But I don't remember ever being in Times Square in the late 70s, early 80s and feeling unsafe. You know what I mean? Like there was almost a sense of camaraderie of the degenerates of the time. Like almost a pride that they had, that they weren't just scumbag criminals. And obviously I'm generalizing. I'm just talking about my experience, of course. I'm not saying that New York was, especially like Times Square was like the safest place in the world in the early 80s. Not at all. I'm saying that as a child, I never felt unsafe there. And it had to do with just kind of the feel of New York. Like back in the 70s and 80s, you knew when you were in New York. As soon as you crossed that bridge, it's like everything, it was almost like a time capsule. Like everything changed. It suddenly became like the old New York that you remember from movies. And I fucking loved it. I actually hated when they cleaned up Times Square. Like Times Square is good for families now, but you know what? I'd rather deal with drug dealers and prostitutes than a family of four any day of the week. Because at least they're more genuine. Drug dealers and fucking prostitutes are way more genuine than the average upstanding citizen. Let's go with that.
Everyone there for the selfies now.
Kinda. Yeah, I'll go with that.
Carson Daly, TRL.
But yeah, like I went to New York, like in 2019, like right before the pandemic. That was the last time I've been to New York, and it was like a foreign country to me. Like I didn't recognize anything. Like Newberry Comics was about the only thing I recognized in Times Square. Everything else was different. And it almost made me sad. Like it just like this doesn't feel like New York anymore. You know, I mean, if you're under 20, under 25, then, New York has pretty much been the same your whole life. But for us old fogies, we remember when New York was fun, where you could actually, smoke a joint right on the street and not have cops assault you. New York cops were so much more, I don't want to say forgiving, maybe ignorant is the right word, but just, they weren't shooting minorities left and right. Not to say that that's the norm today, but obviously with social media and the internet, we hear about this stuff faster and, with more details now than we ever did before. But I don't know, man. Like I said, my experience in New York is very different than a lot of people's. And I'm very happy that I have it, because New York will never be the same. And, there's only a few of us that are still sad about it. And I definitely am one of them. So.
It's too bad we never got that spin-off of Al Pacino versus Belial.
And by the way, in the dance sequence, Al Pacino might as well have just been wearing a T-shirt that says "I'm straight," because that literally looked like a straight man trying to pretend that he's dancing like a gay man. Like in that scene, watch everybody else in the club, literally every single other person. Look at how they're dancing and having a good time. They got their arms raised. And then look at Al Pacino, the only guy on the floor with no rhythm. He's doing this weird fucked up move that doesn't make any sense. It's like he literally should have just painted on his forehead, "I'm straight." Because to me, it was obvious.
And I'm a cop.
And if it's obvious to me, it should have been obvious to every gay man in that club.
I'm a straight cop.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not the cop, but at least I'm a straight man pretending to be gay. Absolutely.
He's just laying in the grass in that one scene.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. And holy shit, I thought he was going to take it up the ass in that last scene. Like, I'm thinking, wow, are you actually going to let him do that to you just so that you can get your man? But no. he ended up getting attacked anyway, so it didn't matter.
Oh yeah.
That's the other thing that kind of disappointed me. I really wanted to see, not, how can I put this? How can I put this without sounding homosexual myself?
Just say it slowly and with passion.
I
What did you want
wanted
to see?
I actually wanted to see Pacino have a gay experience, like get himself into a situation where he couldn't get out of it. Like if he tried to get out of it, he would look like a cop. So I wanted, even if it was just like getting head from somebody in the club or, you know, whatever, letting somebody stroke him off, you know, give him an old fashioned or whatever. Like I was fully expecting to see that. And then in the next scene, he's at Karen Allen's apartment fucking her. But we never get that. And that's disappointing to me because I don't know, like obviously Paul Sorvino picked him because he looked like all of the other victims. But the thing is, Pacino just had a very generic Italian look to him. Dark skin, dark hair, brown eyes, lots of body hair. He just had a very general Italian look to him. So why not just say you look like an Italian homosexual? So I'm throwing you in there.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out too. Like, was there something that the movie didn't communicate well enough that were like that Paul Sorvino thought that like maybe he's like on the low, like homosexual, and that's also why
I don't think so. I think he took him because he was just a young, because he wasn't even a detective yet. Don't forget, he was just a beat cop at the beginning of the movie. So I think if you tell a beat cop that if they do this assignment, they'll get a shield and become a detective, most cops are going to do it. But so I think Sorvino asked him because he looked the part and because he was a young cop looking to get advancement. So he knew he would do it. You know, whereas one of his detectives that he has that's already a detective would never take this assignment. He'd be like, nah, fuck you. I'm not doing that. But you take this, you know, rookie cop and tell him that this is a fast track to lieutenant or a fast track to detective. Suddenly he's a little bit more willing to do things that he normally wouldn't. So I will just say flat out, I was a little disappointed that Pacino didn't get himself in a situation that he couldn't get out of.
Yeah.
And that one scene where the guy tied him up tied him up on the bed naked, I thought that was going to be it. And nope, the cops interrupt it before anything even happens. So yeah, it's one of those things I was expecting throughout the movie and then it never happens. So I get disappointed.
Pacino never got a chance to say, great ass.
Hoorah! Hoorah!
Hoorah! Hoorah, Charlie. That man can suck a dick.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to cruise on over to our next movie, The Clairvoyant, from 2 years later. Now, I will say, as far as like Giallo goes, this one, at least the movie box cover, at least the box cover that corresponds with the Clairvoyant
and it's
title.
directed by an Italian, too.
Yeah, it does look the part. Like if it's like your first time watching this and you're throwing it on, you're like, oh, okay, here we go. This one, what is also called The Killing Hour. Was The Killing Hour like for international audiences? Is that what the breakdown was of how that worked?
I'm not sure because I think The Killing Hour is just like the director's cut of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Or is this international title, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but like, I don't know. You never know.
Because, I mean, the title card says Killing Hour, though, so that obviously was its intended title. Whether that's the original title or not, that's the discussion. But yeah, I mean, if it's in the movie, then that was the intended title. So for me, this movie is called The Killing Hour. I'm not even going with The Clairvoyant, because if you look up The Clairvoyant, just like I was telling these guys earlier, if you look up The Clairvoyant, good luck finding it. But if you look up The Killing Hour, you're going to find it right away. So
yeah,
I don't know.
True.
It's weird when you type in The Killing Hour, the Clairvoyant poster comes up too. It's kind of confusing.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So this one's deemed as a horror mystery thriller. Two uneasy friends, a police officer and a TV talk show host, each pursue the mysterious handcuff killer with the aid of an artist who sees and draws the killer's crimes before they're committed. Now, if that's not a Giallo synopsis, I mean, that sounds like a typical synopsis you would get from a Giallo movie. Derek already mentioned Armand Mastriani. Directed it, stars Perry King,
Man who
Norman
gave us Tom
Parker,
Hanks.
Elizabeth Kemp, along with many others. Joe Morton, who everyone
John
knows is Miles
Pilato.
Dyson.
Yeah, John Polita.
Young John
Pilato.
Pilato. It's fucking crazy how young he is in this movie.
Kenneth McKillen. Yeah. All right. So let's start with Derek this time. What did you think of The Killing Hour, aka The Clairvoyant?
It's kind of, on this rewatch, it's pretty basic Giallo. It's pretty bitch ass fucking basic. You know, they have like that supernatural like shit, which you see in like a lot of Giallos too, where like there's a fucking medium, like deep red. It's the most fucking crazy thing is like the whole love triangle thing that really ruins the fucking movie for me, because I'm like, I don't fucking need this in this fucking movie right now. It's fucking sours and kind of drags the movie down in that aspect. Some of the score is all right. You know, it's got like kind of like that basic Giallo feel to the score, and you know, like it's well shot for a movie. I'll give it that. Like, there's actually some cool scenes of like the sceneries, and like honestly, like the scenes of John Pilato and fucking Joe Morton, fucking Dyson, are the most memorable scenes for me in this movie. And it's just fucking movie takes some left field turns. Like, they make the fucking main cop like a fucking stand up comedian. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Is it?
Yeah, I too tend to agree that, to me, the problem with the love triangle is it almost, at least watching it, almost makes it a shoo-in that it has to be one of them.
Yeah, and then this movie also goes basic because it kind of rips off another kind of Americanized Giallo known as The Eyes of Laura Mars, where they make one of the main love triangle dudes the actual, spoiler alert, the killer, which kind of fucking confused me throughout the movie. I'm like, I knew I didn't like this guy for some reason, and then it's fucking revealed, and it just kind of paint by numbers in that sense, where it's like, it's fucking, yeah, it's one time watch maybe, but that's about it. Like, I wouldn't recommend this if you're looking for like more like a fucking standard Giallo. Like, I would just recommend them in a sense, or even like Dress to Kill or something like that.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad you brought up The Eyes of Laura Mars, because I feel like there's some similarities, but if I had to steer someone towards one of them, it would be that one over this one.
Yeah, it's the better movie. And nothing I like is I love He Knows You're Alone too. So it's kind of cool that he did another movie that I could say that I've seen. But overall, it's just kind of paint by numbers, basic in that sense. But it's cool that we talk about it, because, you know, it was actually kind of fun revisiting it because I haven't seen it in a while. And I forget like all these other like side actors are in this movie. Like, I did a post on fucking the Facebook group where I do Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. Look, it's Dyson. He's here. Good mustache. You know, other than that, like, you know, Kevin McKillen, I love. Like, he's a great character actor. I always remember him from the fucking Cat's Eye segment with the ledge.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's always good. John Pilato. Those scenes, I like those three were like a fucking unit. So it was like fucking hearing them banter, like the police procedural shit with them bantering was kind of like my favorite scenes of the movie. But everything else, like with the love triangle bullshit, I was like, yeah, come on, fast forward, rewind. It was just on this, like, I didn't know how I felt about it on first time watch. But on this rewatch, I'm like, okay, they could have cut this out, or maybe this is what it was cut out of the clairvoyant cut of this movie, but who knows? Because I don't know if that's how that went down. But overall, one-time watch, I would say, if you're into like Giallos or like want to see like a Americanized Giallo film. But I would watch a lot of other movies before this one, too.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Venom, how about you?
All right, well, it is time for me to bring down the mood, because I fucking hate this movie. This movie was a fucking hour and 40-minute waste of my time. I hated everyone in it. I hated every situation. Everyone in this movie is equally stupid. Killer, victim, cop, clairvoyant. Everybody in this movie is mildly fucking retarded. And I can't watch movies like this. I can't derive any pleasure out of movies like this that are just filled with ridiculous cast. That clairvoyant deserved to die. She did so much stupid fucking shit in this movie. She fucking deserved to die. And then when she doesn't, I'm so disappointed in the movie. The cop is an idiot. I mean, a stand-up comedian. And not only is he a fucking a part-time stand-up comedian, he's doing it while he's fucking on duty. Are you fucking joking? You're on fucking duty. There are people getting murdered, getting raped, and you're on stage telling jokes? What the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah, so already I fucking hate this character in the first 5 minutes of the fucking movie. Then we get a killer that almost starts to seem kind of compelling. You know, the handcuff killer. Those first 3 kills with the handcuff, I thought those were all pretty halfway decent. It was setting up something cool. But then, I mean, I'm sorry, but I picked out the killer before the halfway point of this movie. And that's not an exaggeration either. I picked out the exact killer, the character, less than halfway through this fucking movie. It was so goddamn obvious. By the way, this was a first-time watch for me. I've never seen The Clairvoyant before. I mean, man, the laundry list of issues that I have with this movie is almost too long to totally go over here. I mean, God, the stupid scene in the bathroom, the dialogue-free scene in the bar and bathroom where some random guy gives another random guy an envelope of money. What the fuck? Like, it was a pointless scene. It doesn't add anything.
Yeah, it was very random. I agree.
Oh, my God. The elevator kill, which should have been one of the best kills in the movie, was fucking lame as hell. We don't even get a sound effect. We don't even get a fucking sound effect. We got a guy getting crushed by an elevator, and we don't even get a fucking sound effect. So, fail. Also, I actually haven't chimed in yet on the whole Giallo thing. I don't think either of these movies are Giallos. If you want to call them American Giallos, then I will stand here right now and state I fucking hate American Giallos because I don't want police procedurals in my Giallos, okay? I just don't fucking want it. If I want to watch a police procedural, I'll watch Seven, I'll watch Silence of the Lambs, I'll watch Longlegs, okay? But if I want to watch a Giallo, then I want to watch a fucking Giallo. And in my opinion, neither of these movies are Giallos. They have elements of the Giallo, subgenre in there, but they are way too much police procedural. I even fucking called this chat police proceduralo because that's all it is. I mean, it's barely a Giallo and it's mostly police procedural. So let me get off of that soapbox for now. The scene when when the talk show host gets attacked in his house and he starts talking about, I was attacked by the handcuff killer. It was so bloody fucking obvious that he was not the handcuff killer. Now, obviously, I understand why this character said what he said. Once we find out at the end what's going on, it all makes sense. But at the time, it didn't. And I'm just fucking like scratching my head like, what the fuck is going on here? This fucking clairvoyant is the most plain Jane looking girl in the world, and she's got 2 guys trying to get in her pants. What the fuck? Like, I've never seen a plain Jane looking woman get that much fucking action in my life. Really, really irked me. Let's see. Oh, in the scene in the car kill, the scene where the roommate is in the car and she's handcuffed. Did you notice that during the wide shots, you can see the stunt driver in the driver's seat standing up upright?
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck, dude? It's so simple to not put that in the movie. Just cut it before the stuntman is visible on camera. Nope. This director didn't give a fuck. Said, fuck it. It looks fine to me. No, it doesn't. It looks laughable. I laughed during that entire fucking scene. And then she doesn't even die. And then when we get the reveal at the end of what's actually happening, what the motivation is for this killer, fucking retarded. So goddamn stupid. Why would you think any of those guys would rat you out? They would go to jail too. They would fucking go to jail too because they helped you get rid of the body. So why go and kill all these guys in these elaborate ways that should have gotten you caught? He should have been caught with the subway kill. When he handcuffed the guy to the thing right outside of that bar, that should have been the end of the movie. He should have been caught right there. But no. Let's keep the movie going for another hour and 20 fucking minutes. I'm sorry. This movie is less Giallo and more an experiment in frustration. I fucking hated every second of this movie. I hated everyone in it. I wanted every single fucking person in this movie to die a painful death because they wasted an hour and 45 fucking minutes of my life. Actually, an hour and 37 minutes of my life. But yeah, I'm sorry. I can't say anything positive about this movie. I hated every fucking thing about it. Everybody in this movie has half a fucking brain. They all do the complete opposite of what they should be doing. No one in this movie has a sense of self-preservation, least of all the clairvoyant. I mean, again, just like Al Pacino should have worn a t-shirt that said "I'm straight" during the dance sequence, she should have worn a t-shirt on that talk show saying "I want to be murdered." Because that's exactly what you're going to fucking get, you dumb bitch. I mean, what the fuck is wrong with you? So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to get off my soapbox and just say I fucking hated this movie with every fucking ounce of my being. I hope this movie burns in hell and I never have to see it again. Holy fucking shit, did I hate this. I'm done.
Oh.
Okay. So you liked it a little.
Oh, fuck. And I couldn't even watch this in one sitting. It took me 2 sittings to watch this movie because a half hour to 45 minutes
Yeah,
on the first watch.
I actually split this one up too.
Yeah. Who can watch this in one sitting? I mean, you would die of boredom or frustration. Which one would you die of first? Boredom or frustration? I'm not sure. But either way, what the fuck with this movie? I'm sorry. And if anybody calls this a Giallo in my presence, I will punch you in the throat. I will fucking punch you in the throat if you call this a Giallo in my presence. That's a fucking insult to Bava and Fulci and Argento and the greats of Giallo filmmaking. So yeah. And even though this is made by an Italian, fuck you and the cannoli you wrote in on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I make my point clear?
To be fair, most Giallos are police procedurals.
But not to this level. No.
Yes. I've seen tons of them at this level.
Oh
yes.
No. Jesus. Well, then I probably wouldn't like those Giallos then. I'm not the biggest fan of police procedural, and I know that's more a personal thing. That's just my personal opinion. You guys may love police procedurals, and that's fine. Even though my number one fucking movie of 2024, for all intents and purposes, was a police procedural, it's an exceptional one. This, like I said, just I can't abide by stupid characters doing stupid things, doing things that's gonna get them killed. It's not even a question if it's gonna get you killed. It 100% is gonna get you killed, and then they do it anyway. So yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. I can't get behind this movie.
Yeah. Actually, also making the cop a stand-up comedian is actually the most Giallo thing this movie could have done. To be fair, because there's a lot of stupid cops in Giallo, like even Deep Red. The cop that's making with the fucking coffee machine. This is like fucking. They're very jokey with that shit. So it's whatever.
Yeah, whatever indeed.
Mike.
I don't know what else to say after that.
Yeah, tell me how I'm wrong, please.
I said this movie wasn't great either, so don't feel bad.
Oh no, trust me, I don't feel bad at all. My opinions never make me feel bad. Now, admittedly, I've only seen the movie once. I don't know that I'll ever watch it again. At this point, I could solidly say I probably won't, but this is a situation where maybe if I saw this movie in 1982, I might have liked it a little bit better. I wouldn't have been I don't know. I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is. Maybe just not as seasoned at movies and not as much of a cinephile eye that, most of us have later on in life. So if I saw it when it was new, maybe I would have liked it a lot more. I mean, hell, I like Saturday the 14th, and that movie's absolute trash. So maybe if I'd have seen this when I was younger, I might have liked it. But as an adult in 2025, this movie wasted an hour and 37 minutes of my life that I'll never get back. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was all right. I mean, I've seen a lot of movies that I would describe the way Venom described. I wouldn't put this one close to that category, but he didn't like it at all. I mean, I fall more in line with Derek. I didn't think it was bad, but it was very basic. To me, that's the biggest.
Yeah, that's probably one of the things that makes it's so basic. It's kind of boring because you already I knew who the killer was the first time I think I watched it too. So it was like, why the fuck am I following this journey? You know what I mean? It's like nothing like fucking mind blowing, in that sense. So it could be boring if you already fucking called the movie fucking halfway through, or even like the beginning or whenever that character was introduced. But yeah. Spoiler alert, the fucking TV guy is the killer. Okay, let's just put it that way, which fucking made no sense when I first saw this movie. It kind of pissed me off, actually. I'm like, why is this guy like going out of his way like to get ratings? But then they try to do like a torso fucking reveal where it's like he's getting blackmailed maybe by these other guys or they fucking covered him up. But I don't know like the whole procedure because I kind of didn't care either.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like I kind of felt like they were trying to manipulate the viewer to lean more towards the cop, but I'm like, nah, you didn't do a good job with that, because it was the other guy. And yeah, and then his group that gets revealed that he's like working with. Maybe they stumbled off the cruising set right onto this one.
Always Mike's picks.
I'm not going to give Mike shit for this one because ultimately both of these movies look good on paper, but obviously, the end result isn't. Now, I'm a lot more forgiving on Cruising because it has, more recognizable people in it, and at least Paul Sorvino makes the movie watchable if Pacino doesn't. But like I said, I mean, at least I could get down with the mystery a little bit more in Cruising. But yeah, this one, I mean, what mystery? There was no mystery. Derek and I both just said that we called the killer on our first watch, and I've said this before on Fresh Cuts too. It's like when you already know what the reveal is going to be, it makes the movie such a drag because it seems to go at a snail's pace. I said the same thing with The Stylist. I love The Stylist. Don't get me wrong. It was my number 3 movie of that year, but I picked out that ending within about 20 minutes of the start of that movie.
Hell, when people say that they don't like Nosferatu, they love the first half, but they hate the second half, it's because you already know how the movie's going to fucking end because it's fucking Nosferatu. Yeah.
Yep, big time. That's kind of back to my original point from the Fresh Cuts review that Eggers didn't really change the story at all. So there's nothing really to anticipate. There's no surprises. Like, yes, it's visually stunning. It's gorgeous. It's potentially the best made movie of last year.
That surprise was the mustache, for Christ's sake.
Oh, I actually love the design of Nosferatu. I know
I loved it.
I absolutely loved it. And especially when you get the explanation from Robert Eggers that is an authentic outfit from the ruling class, the Cossacks, from the 1840s.
The Impaler, yeah.
I mean, literally, he's dressed like Vlad the Impaler. Exactly. So it just, people who say they hate that design just, they don't want to take the time to realize that it's historically accurate, which makes it better. They want the crazy Mr. Barlow looking monster, from the original or from Salem's Lot or whatever. Yeah. There's a place for that. Like last year's Nosferatu with Doug Jones, there's a place for that movie. And then there's a place for high art like Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. So Yeah, I do wish that Eggers would have made Nosferatu more his own through storytelling rather than just through the visuals and, the preparation and everything else. But I mean, it was still my number 3 movie of the year. Despite,
yeah, it was my number 4. So yeah,
that's what I mean. Despite being disappointed with the story, or that it's the same story that we've always gotten, it was still my number 3 because you can't deny the filmmaking prowess on display in that movie. It's just ridiculous. So I don't know how the hell we got it to Nosferatu, but
yeah, we're just talking about like.
I'd rather talk about Nosferatu than the Clairvoyant. That's for fucking sure.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Okay then. I guess we're done. Talking movies.
I'm sorry to piss on your candle, Mike. I really am, but god damn it.
We should have got
before me. You should have let me last.
On this one too. We'll make it a really good show.
All right. Well, that's gonna wrap up our discussion. But I think we got new episodes of stuff out for people to hear. So Venom, what's new?
Nothing.
Let's see. For No More Room in Hell presents Creature Comforts. Episode 34 is in the can. I am editing it currently. It should be out sometime this week. On that episode, we took a look at our first cel-shaded animated feature film, and that was Derek's pick, which was Batman, The Doom That Came to Gotham. For those who don't know, that is a animated DC Universe movie that has Batman in the Lovecraftian universe. So the movie takes place in the 1920s. There's an expedition to Antarctica. If you've ever read At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft, you basically know what this movie is about, as it is a loose interpretation of that. So, like I said, that episode will be out later this week, so check that out. Well, later this week as of when we record this. Ultimately, this episode
it'll probably be out by the time.
Yeah,
you never know. It might be out.
Yeah, it might even be out by the time you hear this. Exactly. So, we also had the reopening of the Crystal Lake gift shop with Mike and Miss Lacey Lou, the aforementioned Lacey Lou, who I called Lucy Lou for at least 3 months after meeting her. For those who don't know, for those who don't know, the Crystal Lake gift shop is our episode-by-episode retrospective of the original Friday the 13th, the series, which aired from 1987 to 1990. This was episode 6, which covered the 6th episode of the series, titled The Great Montero. That one is also in the can, but that one is not as high a priority for me, so I would say look for that one in February sometime. I'll have that one done by then. Since our recording schedule is so erratic for that show, I don't really feel the need to, edit that overnight or anything. So we'll see that sometime in February. And then hopefully we'll record another episode in February as well, so that we could keep the, because these are quick and easy shows to do. We're just looking at a 44-minute episode of a TV series. It's usually, under an hour per episode of the podcast. So, it's quick and easy. So I'd like to get that on a more regular recording schedule. Let's see. Fresh Cuts, our latest episode of Fresh Cuts, as I mentioned earlier, takes a look at Lee Winnell's The Wolfman. We also had Derek join us on that episode. So we had the whole No More Room in Hell family together to look at, potentially one of the biggest horror releases of the first quarter of 2025. That episode is available now, so check that out. And I think that's everything I have. I'm not sure what's going on with Podcast Under the Stairs. I think Duncan probably just abandoned the rest of the horror head-to-head that he was doing. So hopefully next year you'll hear me on Podcast Under the Stairs. But no guest spots to speak of. And
because I think the summer series is supposed to be coming back this year.
Yes, that's what he said. He said he was coming back this year.
But he never. But you're right. He never kind of finished horror head to head. So I don't know.
I never got to do an episode. So yeah, kind of sad. And I'm so happy with the movies that I got. I was really looking forward to talking about them. I got a couple of Joe Dante movies and a couple of Alex de la Iglesia movies, who's one of my favorite directors. So I was very excited to talk about those. But oh well, maybe next year, or well, maybe later this year, I should say.
Yeah, you never know. Everything that Venom mentioned, I was on. That's all that matters.
Yeah, most of all of it I was on. So, yeah. Well, whose picks are up next? Is it back to
Yours?
Venom?
No, it's Venom's. Yeah, it's Venom's picks.
Yeah, it's me, and I have no idea what I'm picking, so don't ask. I'll have to sit down and think about
Porno
it.
Holocaust.
I actually was thinking about bringing Rape Zombie to the table, but that might be a little too, I don't know, a little too much for some people. Plus, how many people are even familiar with Rape Zombie?
Oh, let's do it. I got all the movies.
I've got the first trilogy. I didn't get the second trilogy, but I do have the first three. So, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know. I've picked some Asian movies over my last couple of picks. So
yeah, same.
I'm not even sure what I want to do. It'll be February, right?
Probably, most likely.
I could be generic and pick Valentine's horror, but that's probably been done to death. So even though we have a new one coming out this year, but I would imagine we'll do that on Fresh Cuts.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so I have no idea what I'm picking, but yeah, my picks are next. So at least you know they'll be somewhat good. What?
Wow.
You're never gonna live it down, Mike. You know this.
To be fair, I actually kind of suggested the Clairvoyant, so it was kind of he just picked.
Well,
yeah.
All right. Well, then Derek gets my piss and vinegar.
Oh, he's asking for like American Giallos in the chat, and
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it was mostly because I just wanted to avoid the obvious ones, because like when the idea first came to my head, it was immediately like De Palma, and I was like,
yeah,
well.
But for the first episode, we probably should have done the obvious ones just to knock them out.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I haven't seen Dressed to Kill in over 20 years, so it would have been practically a first time watch for me, just like
Volume 2.
Oh yeah, Volume 2. Can't imagine they'll get any worse. So.
Eyes of Laura Mars and.
I love Lies of Laura Mars. Yeah.
Would you consider Body Double?
Yes.
I haven't seen that one in a long ass time.
Yes.
I don't know that I've ever seen it. I know the movie you're talking about. I can see the poster, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I have Dressed to Kill 4K, and I have Body Double 4K on my wish list.
Would Blowout be fucking Giallo-ish too, kind of?
Ooh, Blowout. Interesting.
Blowout, and then like I've always thought a good double feature with Blowout is The Conversation with Gene Hackman.
Yes! Oh my god, I fucking love The Conversation. Are you kidding me? One of the greatest movies about audio ever made.
Well, it's time.
And I'm an audio engineer, so of course I love The Conversation.
That's why we had to create a show, so we could finally talk about The Conversation.
There you go.
I have some ideas. Let's just talk about it off here.
Nice.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, that's going to do it for No More Room in Hell, episode 64. We should be back, like mentioned, probably sometime in February. And with that said, let's go back down to the Lake of Fire and say bye to our listeners.
It's fucking Dyson.
Oh, man. I kind of feel like some spaghetti.
We got leftover party pizza.
Pizza? That's not Italian. Oh, wait.